And we are live. We're back. We've had a great season in the NFL fantasy, but there could only be one winner. His name's already up there. Say it now, we've kind of given away who the winner was. But it's the man himself, the team name Group 7, Matty Chrimes, 2023.
Thank you.
Great work.
Thank you very much. It's my first ever win on a fantasy, so I was very happy with it being this one.
Yeah, it were an interesting year, wasn't it? I think a lot of banter back and forth, a lot of stick, a lot of ups and downs. But you've come through. You had a great run at the finish, and you've ended with one of the. To say it was a fair draft, to say there was enough teams in the league, you've ended up with one of the best fantasy teams I've ever seen to finish the season. I think, Grimesy, I've seen a lot of teams this year, and you worked your way. You made a few trades. Picked up a few great ones on the waiver wire, but great year. Take us through some of your thoughts.
No, to be honest, I agree. It's a lot better. Looking at it, I couldn't believe the team I had sometimes. It was a good team. It was a very good team. I think having Taylor and McCaffrey in the same side was quite a dominant little duo. I think if he had a normal pre-season and without all the contract talk, and I think he had a bit of an injury coming into the start of the year, I think he'd have probably been a first round pick as well. Obviously, I think he was 101 last year, maybe, or year before, something like that. So he's got the pedigree of being a first class player. So it was, to sit him there in the 6 was quite nice. But no, I'm very happy with my team. I ended up with Barkley off you, and I think he might have been a first round pick, and it was. No, it was good. It was good. I throughout the year. I think it'll probably come on to it, but I started off pretty slow. But I always had a faith in it coming true and it coming good.
Well, just going through, like you said, I think the two moves. Bish, give me the heads up. Your first one that we've got to speak about, you're not number one pick in the draft. Your first round draft pick. You had the third pick in the draft, and Christian McCaffrey fell to you. Take us through some of your thoughts and feelings when you've had the fantasy MVP fall to you at the third pick.
To be honest, I did think when I got third, I thought I'd get him. So obviously Jefferson's going to go 1, and then there was a lot of talk of someone on the off season about going second, and obviously McCaffrey in the past has had his injury history and things like that, and. He didn't. I think he had a bit of a niggle before he joined the 49ers last year, but then was obviously amazing for them. So I had a feeling I'd get him at third. I can't remember who went second.
Jamar Chase. Sam picked Jamar Chase.
Right. Well, yeah. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase coming into the year, it should have been a very good year. So I did think I'd get McCaffrey, and I've Bassey, who's in the league, he's won a couple of other leagues just riding McCaffrey. So I thought, yeah, why not? Let's see where it takes me. And it took me all the way.
Yeah, confidence was a bit low. I remember you were not 0-2, and I asked you to do a video. You said wait until I get a couple of wins on the board. Obviously you'd picked Taylor at 6, so you knew he were going to be a late bloomer. You knew your team were going to be probably better at the back end of the year. So were there any panic there, or it was just a case of just seeing it through?
I think the more nerves were around the amount of stick I'd give to Tag and a few of them. That if I went 0-3, I was in a really bad spot. But no, that Taylor picking a 6, that was exactly what I wanted. I knew it were 4 games. And my worst case scenario is if he got traded, he'd probably end up at a team that's competing. He'd get the RB1 job, and it'd be, a really good year. It would, my worst case scenario was like if he holds out for a contract, and then they gave him one, and it was all off and running. Not 0-2, yeah, quiet nerves. But I think with McCaffrey, you've always got a chance. And there were some weeks he did it on his own, really. But no, I wasn't say I was worried, but quiet nerves is probably the best way of putting it. I couldn't give as much stick out as I had been at the first 2 weeks after being 0-2, and I wasn't doing an interview slagging everyone else off at 0-2.
I remember in previous years, I think your Jonathan Taylor pick were brave because in previous years, I think the reason he fell so much because there's been a running trend of these players who, for one reason or another, have fell down, maybe because they're coming back from injury or they're holding out, and it's not worked out for a while. I've been playing fantasy now consistently for years. It kept not working out. McCaffrey was one. Michael Thomas was one. There's been others. I think the man who played at Cleveland, Josh, who come back from his ban, never even got a game once he come back from his ban. There's been years where it's not worked, and it obviously, I think it's evidence that each individual player has got a story of his own, and don't fall for patterns. Because I think probably reason why we've all stayed away from it is because the pattern was suggesting stay away if this happens. But you were the brave man to pick him, and like I said, he's one of the top 5-6 running backs on the year, and you've had a league winner for his draft position.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at him and he's 24. Like some of the backs there you mentioned are probably going to be a bit older than him. At 24, you've got so many years ahead of you, and I just thought he's too good for it not to work. It was my thought process on it, which is probably it could have been really naive, but no, I just thought it was on his day. He's a class above, really. He's a serious back.
I think a prime candidate of that is Josh Jacobs. Pretty similar. He held out. And it didn't work for him. It didn't work for me.
Yeah.
So you picked the right one there.
Yeah, it normally doesn't, does it? I remember I picked Michael Thomas a couple of years up when he was waiting out through injury, and they said, "Oh, we're back by week 1," and then I think it got to week 12, and he hadn't come back yet, and it completely ruined my season because I picked him in the second or third round. So, yeah, you've done well. And then your other one, I believe. Your fantasy postseason MVP got to be up there. It's got to be I keep saying Amon-Ra St. Brown. I keep saying his brother. Amon-Ra has had one of the greatest, I think, postseason fantasy runs in recent history. He helped you get to that final, I think.
Oh yeah, he was unreal. I'm just looking at his numbers now. He got week 15, 20 points, week 16, 22, 17, week 17. So in the final, he got 19 points. I think he's been consistent all year. Let's have a look. He didn't play against Carolina. And then a couple of weeks, I think, where he wasn't in the team. So he's been a solid players for a really good choice. So yeah, no, he was a really good choice.
Yeah, because before that, he ended up with wide receiver 22, wide receiver 23, and then had his worst week the week before the playoffs at wide receiver 55, and then went on a four stretch run of being in the top 8 every week. So yeah, Amon-Ra St. Brown, your postseason MVP, and then again, I think one of the greatest fantasy ones, fantasy not draft pickups, your waiver wire pickups was your tight end, Sam Laporta. What a season he had.
Yeah, he was. I think I'm just looking at him now. I actually drafted him. He was my 14th pick.
Sorry.
Yeah, so I had him. No, I thought I thought it was waiver as well, but no, I actually scouted him out and did a lot of research into him. So when he was there at 14, I knew it was a steal.
You had two, didn't you? You had TJ Hawkinson as well. You eventually traded him away.
That's how I ended up with Godwin when you got in touch, and they were both playing well. And I thought, let's go with the young lad, and he did me well.
And just going through, obviously, you started 0-2, pulled it back to 2-2, and then I think you lost one, got it back to 3-3, and then you sort of kicked on from then. But then going into it, I think that we spoke about post-season performances. It's got to be in the semi-final. It was a pretty good match, to be fair. You and Isaac. Isaac racked up 125 points, but helping you out to 148. Amari Cooper. What about that performance? 46 fantasy points. What did you think of that? Did you see that coming?
I mean, he was on my trade list all year. He was on the trade block. First time I came on, we talked about what it'd take to get rid of him.
Yeah.
And then
I think I offered you Calvin Ridley at one point.
Yeah, I thought about it as well.
Yeah.
No, it was. Oh, he's what dreams are made of, innit? And then it just felt so like it felt like a movie that he couldn't play in the final for me. It was like he got me there, the old boy, and he's had to be put to one side to let the young lad Addison come in. But it was no, it was special watching that come through at 260 yards is insane. It's just insane. But it's like the Kamara game a few years ago. You know, there's always one player who semi-finals, finals will just drop an absolute masterclass, and I was just lucky to have one of them.
Yeah, it's good he's in your team and not sat on your bench, because that could finish you if you sat there with him on your bench.
Yeah.
And then you obviously the final. One thing I'm going to say I am disappointed in, and we've talked about it through the show. You know, you had a nice, healthy rivalry with Tag, and it gets to the final, and you're both best mates. What's all that about? you've gone from hammering each other on the group chat to like, oh yeah, I hope the best team wins and all this. I'm like, come on, what's going on?
I have no words. I'm just a coward, and I'm all talk. When the money's on the line, I can't talk.
Again, another good matchup. 107 for Tag, 113 for yourself, and we just spoke about it before. I think CD Lamb played the Saturday night and racked up 33 points. So then you're going into the Sunday games. You know, after that big performance, 33 points down. Again, any panic or we sort of talked about your team. It's very solid throughout, very reliable. And maybe you look at Tags, he lost Herbert, so he was a bit up and down. He had CD Lamb, James Conner, and then a couple of players who didn't produce. But on the back of that CD Lamb game, he must have been hoping McCaffrey puts in another big one.
Yeah, well, every week I'd usually put like 4 or 5 on what McCaffrey was predicted. So when he went off with 11, I thought, right, we're going to be in a tough spot here. But then through Taylor, St. Brown, Godwin, Laporta, Prescott, they all put good numbers in. And luckily for me, it was just CD Lamb and James Conner that really went off for Tag. But no, it was, I think it was quite, I was watching it up and down, and I was sat at home watching it, think with my family. I was like, oh, I need like this to happen. And I was trying to explain the red zone and what I need and stuff like that. First time I watched it. And then I just saw a message come through because it was a bit behind. And I think Godwin's just won it for you. And I looked up and the play came up where I think it was a long touchdown. And I thought, yes, that's me. I'm done. I can switch it off now. And then I had the Seahawks defense. Was it the Seahawks? Let me make sure. Yeah, Seahawks defense in they were the late window. After all the games had done, I just needed them not to get -5, and they got me a point. So I was very happy with that. Very happy.
But I'd say, as our league winner, you're probably best to give. We probably, I think most of our viewers and people who watch us will be fairly new, based off the rugby league crowd that come over. Give us 3 bits of advice as a league winner. Me and Bishop give advice all year, but we're talking to the king, the man on the mountain. Give us 3 bits of advice for people who want to get into fantasy, people who are in the draft day, and people throughout the season. So 3 little bits there, and what they can do to have an effective and good fantasy year.
I mean, the first one is draft McCaffrey. That's number one. If you can get that box ticked, you'll be at least mid-table. I think one that I've been, which I'm not normally, is be a bit more flexible with your team. I used to not like, especially in the past couple of years, I wouldn't do a lot of trades because I was quite. I almost became like I thought I was a father figure to my team. Like my players, I've picked them. If I win, it's on me. So I think you move your points around. Like Bish said earlier on in the year, you want to win the title. You're not here to win trades. So that's a big one. Be quite flexible with your team. And then I don't know about a third one. Always drop the Chargers D. I think that got me about 30 points. The Raiders for them.
Yeah, that one went unnoticed as well. I think it was the first knockout round, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's my big one. When I got that right, I thought I've got a chance here.
Yeah, that was some pick up that.
Yeah.
I think it was Chargers.
Was it the Raiders? they were playing the Chargers.
That was it. Yeah, that
Absolutely
was it. I didn't
them.
drop the Chargers. Yeah, they were playing against the Chargers.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking, Grimesy, there will be a trophy for you coming. So what are we putting on it? Are we putting Group 7 on it? Is that the?
Yeah, Group 7. Group 7. That's me. That's me.
And I've had a look through the fixture list. It's Swinton at home to Sheffield. I believe it's Sunday the 14th of April. So we're going to pencil that one in as when the trophy ceremony will take place. So hopefully we'll get a nice video of that for the socials and for YouTube.
Yeah, we'll get it done at half time. We'll on the pitch. I'll have a word with PA guy. I'm sure he'll sort it.
Yeah, full pack stadium cheering Grimesy for his fantasy win.
All wondering what group.
Are you joining us next year? What have you got to say? Give the people who want to join a bit of a sales pitch. Did you have fun? Did you enjoy it? Did you enjoy being part of the punt? And what was it unlike any other fantasy season you've ever had?
No, it's been I'm definitely back. Definitely back. It don't count if you don't go back to back. So no, I'll definitely be back. Yeah, it's been good. It's lively. It's a lively group chat. It's one of the more lively ones I've been in. So it's a nice little group. A lot of stick given, a lot of bad trades made. So you can do a good amount of swindling. But no, it's a good year. It's a good few weeks. So I would recommend to anyone to join the punt and get beat by me.
Nice.
I thought you were going to say make trades with me. Then I thought make any trades with Joe and you'll end up better.
I've given that trade enough airtime now. I will be taking Cole Kmet in the first round next year.
Yeah, just anyone out there listening who is keen to get involved, just give us a mention on our socials, and we'll put your name down. We've got a couple of fans already who want to have a crack at Grimesy, so I'm sure we're looking to expand and get bigger and bigger. So we're looking forward to it. A long off season, but I'm sure Grimes is planning his strategy to defend his title.
I am. It will be, Gaffer.
Before we get on to the news, lad, just highlight what Bish said. Please give us a message. Please join. We've had some good fun. We'd like to make it 2 or 3 leagues. Obviously, year on year now, we're going to be here a long time. So year on year, hoping to grow it, add leagues every year. So please join us. Have some fun. If you love rugby league, if you love it, obviously you love NFL, want to get involved in some good laughs, we'll get you involved and we can, like I said, have a brilliant fantasy year with the punt again and get it going. But lads, we'll crack on. Bish, I think you're going to take us through the news of the weekend. We've had the final week of the NFL regular season. Very interesting one. Loads of storylines. Take us through a couple of them. Yeah,
well, the first Monday, we record Monday, so it is officially Black Monday. The Monday where coaches, unfortunately, lose their jobs and organisations go different ways, and that's been the case. Arthur Smith of the Falcons, probably not one that this show is a fan of his coaching methods, but he's gone. He's been fired from his job. 7-10 the last 3 years, but I think this year they expected quite a bit more from him. He's spent 3 draft picks on offensive players, top 10 picks in Pitts, Drake London, and Bijan, and they just come up short this year. So he's gone. Ron Rivera at the Commanders, he's gone as well. 4-13 record, and the GM at the Panthers, I suppose the guy ultimately responsible for Bryce Young draft pick, he's gone as well. So those were the 3 this morning. Well, this morning in terms of American time. So it's onto the playoffs as well. The sort of all the action. A great game to finish it off with the Bills and Miami. Those flip flopping. So but some good storylines as well. Tyreek goes back to KC. Matthew Stafford goes back to Detroit. And Mike McCarthy comes up against the Packers in the playoffs. So some good settings, some good games. And luckily for us, they're all televised. So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, let's get stuck in, lads. What do you think to the Arthur Smith one? In my view, had to happen. It was reported 3 weeks ago by, I think, quite a few of the top NFL reporters that he's safe for next year. That it's all on. He's getting another chance, Arthur Smith, and then he's had a very bad 3-week stretch. I think he still had the chance of making the playoff. That didn't happen, and a shocking weekend. Like you said, I sent Bichette a post about 40 minutes ago. Tyler Algier ended up with more rushing yards on the season than last year, than in his rookie year, than Bijan Robinson did this year. Bijan's ended up with 984, I believe. I'll just quickly check. Ended up with 976 rushing yards on the season. I think that's nearly dismissal alone to get fired. That your top running back, one of the most highly rated running backs in the year, has only got 976. He was stubborn in his coaching. He didn't adjust well enough, adjusted very late, and it wasn't effective. I'm excited about what the Falcons are going to offer us next year. If they get a QB in, or I think what they'll have to pick is whether they stick with Ridder or they go elsewhere. Because if they get a serviceable quarterback in there, they could be scary going into next year, and they'll be one of my picks to maybe make the playoffs and do some damage if they get that quarterback decision right.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're a really good job opening, the Falcons, with them. You know, you've got them three there who are all seriously talented athletes. And I think Smith hasn't used them properly, but the QB doesn't help him either. I think they've flipped between Heineke and Ridder all year. If you've got two quarterbacks, you haven't got any. If you've got to choose between them every single week, it's no good for anyone. But yeah, I think they'll be a serious team next year, the Falcons. I think if they get the right coaching, get the right quarterback in the draft, or whoever's available in free agency. I don't know if Kirk Cousins is contracted yet, but he might be a nice one. I think they'll be a serious team. I think they'll be quite good.
And I echo that, to be honest. I think they'll trade or pick up a free agent quarterback. Rumours are Russell Wilson, which I'm not liking that, if I'm honest. What I'd really like to see is the Bears move on from Fields and Fields go straight to the Falcons. I think he'd fit in lovely there. So yeah. But yeah, it's an exciting team, great pieces on offense. You just need the right coach and the right quarterback in there, I think.
Bish, what's your view on Carolina? I know obviously you mentioned the GM getting sacked. What have they got to do? Have they got any hope for next year, or is it another rebuild? Is it another tough off-season for the Carolina Panthers?
Well, the problem is they don't have the first-round pick, do they? So, it's what can they do? I think it is a 2-3 year sort of build, sort of job. They could splash some money in free agency and try and build up some offense, because I think the defense is pretty good, to be fair. Statistically, it's pretty good. They don't give up a lot of yards. They're just put in bad situations constantly by their offense, not doing anything. So, yeah, I think, well, it's clear to see Bryce Young needs some help. Can they get him a couple of wide receivers, some help on O-line? But ultimately, where can it come from? I think they've got to spend some money, really, in free agency, unless they do it really slowly and use the draft. But like I said, there's no first round pick there, so that could. I think it's one of the tougher jobs. You have got a young quarterback, so that might bide you a little bit of time in terms of a long-term project. But yeah, I think there's more fanciable jobs out there than that one, I think.
Yeah, I think the owner situation as well just makes it look really poor. He sacked. Is it Frank Reich, weren't it, this year?
Yeah.
First year rookie QB. Got rid of a DJ Moore. I think they got out of there. It was 10 games. Got rid of him. Like, what coach is going to look at that and think this is where I'm going to get time? They were selling tickets for like 50 cents about 2 weeks ago. It's a really tough job, I think, to go in and win them over and turn them around. And without a first round pick, it has to be free agency. It has to be.
The good thing is they do have a quarterback. I think most teams in their position don't have a quarterback. I think whatever you think of Bryce Young, he deserves another year. It's been a nothing year for him. So at least you've got that. You're not stressed without a draft pick going. We need to find a quarterback from somewhere, free agency. You've got that sorted. I think you need some wide receivers. There's normally quite a few wide receivers in free agency. A couple late off in the draft. Obviously, we've seen Puka Nacua. The issue for me is the owner willing to take a step back and let some more educated people make them draft picks and really have their say on the organisation? Because at the moment, a lot of water swilling and a lot of issues aside, he seems to want all the power, and I think it's never good for. I think we see in every sport owners that take too much influence over their team normally ends in disaster.
I agree. Like you said, it's across the board in certain sports, but I suppose it's their money, that they're spending. They probably want a bit more accountability in terms of them making decisions. Which obviously then in the sporting terms doesn't really work. Probably the most puzzling thing for me is what you said there. They traded away the best wide receiver to pick up a quarterback, and then just before the trade deadline, the rumours out they're after a wide receiver. So it's a bit upside down sort of way of doing things. And I think what probably hurts them as well is how well CJ Stroud's done this year.
Yeah,
because they had their choice of who they wanted. They picked ultimately at the minute the wrong man. So I think they've got to hope that it's sort of a Trevor Lawrence situation where, under Urban Meyer in that first year, he looked pretty bad and he blossomed really nicely, to what he is now. Although, some might say he's not had a great year, but I think they'll try and hope that they can find a coach that will help Bryce sort of blossom into a similar player.
I've got one more talking point, lads, for me, and then I'll let you lads dive in. We've got Jalen Hurts. Did he have a Linsanity run in 2022-2023, or is he the real deal? I want your views, and I want a tough, honest opinion right now.
I think he's the real deal. I think what he had in his OC last year was a real dynamic offense. And for whatever reason, the chain, obviously, I think he went to, it was Shane Steichen when he was gone to Colts, I want to say. Yeah. So losing him would have been a massive difference, a massive change. I think he's got, how would you word it? I think he's a serious quarterback. He's definitely, I think he's worth the money. I think his intangibles outside of football are, spot on. And I think the situation behind the coaching staff and, the DC's changed twice. I think they got a new one in. He wasn't working. They got Matt Patricia in, who didn't work in the Patriots. He didn't work in Detroit. And obviously that's defense. But, that whole matching and mixing up and confusion inside the building, it's going to affect everyone. You see team player-led meetings. They never normally, you don't have player-led meetings when it's going well. So there's a lot going on inside the building that he is doing the best he can in with a good team, a tough situation.
Yeah, I'm similar vein, and one maybe a bit. I'm going to go slightly off topic here, but I think an underrated sort of not stat, but an underrated value with teams that are successful. Obviously, Super Bowl winning teams, they always have their OCs and DCs and all the the staff below the main guys poached every year, which means you're going to have to constantly regurgitate or change the way that you do. So Steichen went. Jonathan Gannon went on defense, and I think that's the biggest blow, losing Jonathan Gannon, because if you look at their defense, I mean, you've got the start of the year with a bit of pass rush. Hassan Reddick obviously hasn't been the same as he was last year. Jalen Carter looks pretty good, the rookie, but the secondary, wow. I honestly think, we could play in that secondary at times. It is, you just see it on TV, just getting gashed left, right, and centre. The weekend, unbelievable. The Giants were just so much space. So So I think that's the biggest thing. I do think Jalen Hurts is good enough. I do think he's good enough to win a Super Bowl. I just think it's just tough times at the minute, and they're on the slide massively. It's something big, whether it's a statement on the field, something off the field. Something's got to change because the Bucs are a dangerous team. It is a tough game next week, but it is backs against the wall. People are saying that they're long gone now. This is where your big players stand up in big games. So he's going to need some help. I think. Obviously, he's dealing with a dislocated finger as well. So I'm not seeing the news on that one. But it's on his throwing hand as well. So that's going to be something to look at as well.
I think it were really interesting how I think when they were about 8-1, they were known as the team that. A bit earlier, 5 or 6. They were known as the team who everyone thought were going to drop off, and then they beat Kansas City, they beat Buffalo, and then everyone kind of forgot about that storyline and went, "Oh no, they are the real deal." And then it's quite funny how I think it's come full circle again and dropped off a cliff after them 2 big wins. And then everyone in them first 5 or 6 weeks who were saying, "Oh no, they were a good team, the best record, but one of the worst teams with the best record," and it all come true at the end. And I think football, NFL, American football, I guess for our English viewers, it's got a funny way of doing that because it normally does always play out, and whatever you are singing does normally make its way to happen by the end of the year. There's obviously always ups and downs, but yeah, I think the early season woes, the early season signs, even though they were picking up the wins, ultimately have come true regarding the end of the year. And it's what a tough way to enter the playoffs.
And then just those last 6 games on paper scheduled to be the easiest 6 games of their schedule, and they've gone 1-5. So yeah, it sort of catapults that. But just one I want to throw in there for you, just get an opinion on this one, is the Raiders. Antonio Pierce, he came in, he's done a good job, just missed out on the playoffs. But there's a lot of talk of Jim Harbaugh going there from Michigan. What do you think there, boys? Do you think they should stick with Pierce, who seems to have sort of certainly won the players over, or do they go with obviously the experience, of a sort of a Jim Harbaugh there?
If I'm coming from the other side of it, if I'm Jim Harbaugh, I would look at that Chargers job and think if you can get your hands on Justin Herbert and mess about with him, I think you can go all the way with him. But to go back to the Raiders, I think I'd keep Pierce, and I just. The energy that was around that team when McDaniels was there was just so negative and poor, and players on the meetings every week, and it was so toxic. And then you see the videos that were coming out afterwards when he come in and they got the first win, and Devontae Adams was speaking up in the change room after the game, and it just really galvanized the whole team. And you could see that in the way they play and what they did to the Chargers, in a matter of fact. But yeah, I think I'd stick with Pierce. I think
it's a tough one. It's a tough one because Jim Harbaugh is known as one of the best coaches in football, college or NFL level. He's obviously done a fantastic job at Michigan. I don't know. I think we've seen in previous years these calls go right and wrong. I know Miami had an interim. I'm so bad with names, but I know they had an interim and they got rid of him, and now look at them. It went the right way when everyone had called Bish, help me out if you can. You're better with names.
Right, I'd have to Google him.
So I've dragged you in the bus with me. I just know it. Sometimes when these situations happen, they want you to go with these interims, but if there's someone as good as Jim Harbaugh out there, and if he wants to join the Raiders, you've got to seriously consider that. But as you said, he's turned it around. They beat the Chiefs. They beat the Broncos very handily. They had the great game against the Chargers. I just don't see a win in there that I'm really super impressed about. Without being too rude, the Chiefs are good, but they're going into the playoffs on a bad run. The Broncos, with everything that's happened near the end of the year, I think they've just they just ended the season, didn't they? Wanted to move on to the next one after nearly making the playoffs a couple of weeks ago. They lost to the Colts. They beat the Chargers, but I think I'm not too impressed. And then they lost to that Vikings in the worst game of the year. So I'm not sure, to be honest. It'd be a tough call. Like I said, the vibes are immaculate. The vibes are brilliant. Everyone's loving life. But if there's a coach of that caliber out there, I'd be hard to say no to Jim Harbaugh. I'd probably take him and give him a go. I know that's incredibly harsh and totally wrong, but sometimes you've got to make them tough decisions in sport. And I didn't see the turnaround big enough. I just saw, like you said, I just saw a change from how miserable they were under the last regime, and now Antonio Pierce. I think if Jim Harbaugh is available and wants to come, you get Jim Harbaugh, and you go get give him a go at the NFL again.
Fair play.
Basically, you're not escaping, basically.
I thought I could just get on the fence on this one. It is tough, isn't it? For me, it's the quarterback that worries me. You know, you've got a rookie in Aidan O'Connell. I don't think Jimmy G is going to be back. Yeah, it's a tough one. I'd probably say, yeah. The problem is with Harbaugh is sort of, I think he's quite controlling in it, so he'd want control over everything, really. So it's just whether you're willing to give up that. But I think I'd be no. I'm gonna go with Pierce. I'm gonna go ride with Pierce. You know, he is a former Raider. You know, it's in his blood. You can see everyone loves him. He eats, sleeps, whatever the last one is. Does it all? Yeah. So yeah, I'm saying stick with him. Just get a good team around him to help him out. Get a good GM. Get your good coordinators. Get a really good team that'll back him up.
Brilliant. Any last talking points, lads? Or are we happy?
All good for me.
I'm happy. Yeah, I'm happy. I'm just again, congratulations, Grimesy.
Thank you.
The show was for you, just to get you out there, get that Tash on display again.
Brilliant. Well done, Crimes. You're on a fantastic year. We've had fun. You've been one of the leading wind-up merchants, leading commenters, got the action going all throughout. You've come on the show. Is it twice now you've been on? This is your
three.
Yeah, third time on the show. You've been contributing all throughout. So thank you from the punt team for being all in on us and having a good laugh and contributing as much as you can. It's been a great year. Hopefully the same next year. And congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Keep that trophy warm for me.
How are we doing it? Are we having initials and then it's almost like the Champions League where you get all the teams on it? Or
not sure yet. We'll have to do some research and see how much these trophies are first. You know, we've got a tight budget at the punt here, so we'll have a look. We were a field goal away from landing the Bet365 sponsorship with Joe's Bet of the weekend. So
nice. I'm devastated.
If that would have come in, you would have had a big, massive trophy, mate. But unfortunately, it's going to be a small one.
A 10-1 Crimesy. They missed the field goal. I think they did it on purpose as well for the better draft pick as well. I can't suggest that. But they missed the field goal. I thought it was best bet. I went to bed before it. I woke up with the news that it's not come in. I was smoking, thinking, I wasn't. I was like metaphorically giving it one, thinking, I've landed the big one, 10-1. And then it missed the field goal when I went to bed. I'm devastated.
The house always wins, mate. The house always wins.
It does. Bish, take us through your last thoughts.
No, thank you, Grimes. As I said, it's been a good year. If you're watching, please subscribe, like, and again, if you want to get involved, please give us a shout. We're on all the socials, the Instas and Twitters will be going all through the summer. Plenty of talking points. If you're listening on Spotify, I know we've got some Spotify listeners. Please leave us a review. That'll help us massively. But until we see you again, Good night. God bless.
See you soon.